Good morning. It is Tuesday. Time for a recap of last night's game. My cunning and not-so-subtle plan worked. I let the players know that, for once, I didn't mind if they watched the predictions video before the game. Yesterday's video where I basically said, get on with it. And they did. Amazing how that works sometimes. I always feel like I've failed a little bit as a DM when I really have to push a group to understand a course of action that I thought I had hinted at previous. But in this case, I think the players had managed to convince themselves that there was an importance to something, which I had never provided. They were relying on information from an NPC, which was relying on information from 1,000 years ago, which said that they had to complete the trials, otherwise Voninhiem would be a very dangerous place to them. Reason for that being, of course, is that there were a bunch of giants there that don't like outsiders, and you needed to look like a giant. With most of the spheres frozen, wasn't quite as important as it used to be. And when they did get to Voninhiem and encountered giants that were not frozen, there were enough of them that did have the ability to change that they managed to get through it. So yes, they finally went to Voninhiem. They arrived at the city of platinum and gold, sitting upon the floating rock in the middle of the maelstrom of storm. They arrived basically at the eye of the storm, and they found that the city was not frozen, and the city was preparing for war. Through a series of events, they managed to get through town, to speak to some giants, to pass a message to Voninhiem. They saw an announcement from Voninhiem as he addressed the populace, saying that the ships of Voninhiem would sail at dawn the next day. They eventually managed to draw him out. Basically, the fire giant that they had been traveling with had been shown to his ancestors' home. Because a lot of people were returning to Voninhiem because of the call that had gone out. The call basically had placed a suggestion into the minds of any giant who had left Voninhiem, or who had left Osterna, rather, the sphere, not the city. So any of those who had left, any of those who had gone away, were being called back. And then basically with each successive generation, so if you had a father or a grandfather or a great-grandfather who had left, you would hear the call, but not as strongly. That's why Ferris said he thought he heard this call from the ring. It turns out, although he doesn't know this, that the call wasn't from the ring. The call, he felt it because his bloodline was from Voninhiem. But when he felt the call, it awakened the ring, which is why then he thought it was the ring. His sons would have actually felt it as well, but they were just basically not observant enough to realize it. Too young and stupid, basically. So they went to Ferris's house that he had just discovered. And they managed to message Voninhiem and finally managed to actually draw him out. And he finally said, look, if you're going to continue being this persistent, fine, I'll meet with you. And he came to them, arriving on a chariot crafted of lightning and thunder. They spoke at length. basically, throughout the conversation, they managed to draw out most of Sveltenum's plans. They discovered basically that the frost that had covered Osterna was due to him leaving. Basically, leaving the throne empty had caused the power of the throne to lash out. And it had frozen the sphere. In his return now, has started to unthaw things. Slowly. Ever so slowly. They discovered that he did not want the throne, but that it was his, and he felt cursed and forced to take it. They also discovered that with the forces of war pressing down on them, with the armies attacking from all sides, Sveltenum feared that the old empire of the giants would be taken over. He feared that one of these forces would win and would enforce their new law on the giants. The Storm Seers had foreseen it, as he had said, and they foresaw that the only way to stop one of these forces from achieving dominance and establishing their new law was instead for the giants to establish their law first. Bearing in mind the ordning, everything must have an order. You can't have two things equal in the ordning. Everyone has their place, and there is one person per place. There is one person at the top of the ordning. Now, this is not just within the races. I mean, yeah, normally it is, storm giants on top, then cloud giants, and then all the way down the list. But not only that, but within cloud giant society, or within storm giant society, each giant knows his rank against all of the other giants. It's not like all of the storm giants are the same rank. Each and every giant has a place in the ordning. And every time they meet someone, they know, I outrank you, you outrank me, within their own caste. And then within the larger groups, they know, my caste outranks yours. So there is no concept among the giants of kind of an equal share of power. They understand that if these other forces are not crushed and forced to submit, one of these other forces will crush them and force them to submit. That is the way that the giants believe. And so reluctantly, Sveltenum has decided that he has no choice but to conquer all of the known spheres. And yes, that is reluctantly, he feels that he has to conquer all of the known spheres. That is the mindset he is currently in. If I don't do it, someone else will, and I can't stand for someone else to do it. I can't submit to someone else's law, so everyone's going to have to submit to my law. He has mentioned the imbalance, that the force which once held back all of these different groups and kept them apart from each other, it has failed. There was a brief mention in the group of bringing that opposing force back, but I don't really know that anyone listened to the player that said it. So I don't know if that's going to be pursued at all. So yeah, they eventually, after a lot of discussion, a lot of convincing, basically the players were trying to convince Sveltnum, instead of conquering everything, to work with the dwarves and with the humans and the gnomes and the elves and all of the others as a council against the evil, against the other things that are trying to conquer everything. And Sveltnum finally relented to an extent, and he gave them the statement that in war, one voice must lead, but he promised them that in time when peace came, there would be a time for other voices to then be heard. Basically, what he's saying to them is, if the humans and the elves and all of the others, if they will submit to his sovereignty and obey him in this war, then after the war, they would talk again. Now, what form that takes, I don't know. That's going to be interesting. But that's basically where we left it. The next game session, I've already told the players, will focus on a very kind of high-level set of events that I have referred to as the 5 years of war. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers... Oh, forgot to mention, I did tell the players that as a recourse to all of this, as a result of what's been going on and what will be going on, they will be advancing their characters directly to level 20. We've basically got 2 sessions left of this game as far as I can plan it out. I'm hoping that we get everything into 2 sessions at least. There's still a lot to do. But we've got the 5 years of war, and then there will be a conclusion after that. And yeah, they're going to be level 20 for it. That will be interesting. Anyway, like, subscribe. I would highly recommend, whenever the session videos from last night go up, you check out at least hour 4, I believe it is, where the conversation with Sveltnum really gets going. I think the players were on tenterhooks for a bit there. I'm not sure which way they thought it was going to go. For a while, I wasn't sure which way I thought it was going to go, but I was pleased with how it turned out. Have a great day, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.